Hey, y'all, and welcome to another Southern Fried, the show that explores the South through its people. I'm actually really pumped for our guest for Southern Fried today. It's somebody who I think is perfect for this show, an entrepreneur, business owner, podcast for themselves. Today's guest centers all he does around one core principle, one that I think a lot of our mamas taught us some point growing up, and that's Southern hospitality. I'm glad you're joining us for this episode as we welcome in Chris Thomas. Chris, how are you doing?
Man, I'm doing great.
Chris, where are we catching you right now? Looks like a nice studio. Is that a little Willie Nelson right behind you?
That's a little Willie back there. It was painted by my friend Sam Ryan, who also is a Mississippi guy. I mean, not that you're a Mississippi guy, but you went to college in Mississippi.
Hey, I love Mississippi,
Yeah, I do too. And Sam is an incredible artist. If you look him up, Sam Ryan on Instagram, he's just absolutely exploded over the last couple of years. And that was a painting that I saw that he did a few years ago, and I was like, I gotta have that. And I grew up listening to Willie. I love Willie with all my heart. I think we're probably sadly close to losing him at some point. He's getting up there, and I'm like, so that's been hanging on my office wall for many years now.
Love it. And so you're in...
I'm in Franklin, Tennessee, by the way.
Yeah. All right, so I wanted to ask, as we kind of get started, quick check-in with my Tennessee friends. How is Franklin right now? We're recording right at... The winter storms hit earlier this week when we're recording, but it hasn't gotten any warmer up there, I don't think. So how are y'all handling it?
No, dude, it's real cold today. I can't remember. I'm not the weather checker in my family. My wife is the one who checks the weather daily, and it kind of tells me, what's going on. And all she said this morning was like, oh, it's going to be a cold one today. So I don't know what that means. Could be 5 out there, could be 15, but it's pretty cold today. We have fared pretty well. I mean, I'm looking out my office window. There's still like a lot of snow, a lot of ice. I'm looking at these trees, got ice still hanging on them.
Yeah.
Nashville got beat up, dude.
Mm-hmm.
They got hammered with it. And so we have a lot of friends in Nashville who still have or still don't have power. They're renting Airbnbs on this side of town, or they're, just trying to stay warm where they can. But Franklin, I feel like fared okay. Like we lost power. We're out in the country, and I thought, actually I'm a bit of an optimist. Like I was like, man, this is not going to be a big deal. Yeah. I went through the ice storm of 94. If you look that up, I don't know if Alabama experienced that. Yeah. But we were like, man, back then I was a junior in high school, and all my buddies came out to hang out at my house, and all we did was, dip Copenhagen and shoot pool in the dark and, stuff like that. But it wasn't nearly as traumatic. It wasn't even traumatic back then. It was awesome. But we didn't lose. I think we lost power for 2 hours. Like we thought we would get worse than that, but we fared pretty well.
So I grew up, for me, the big ice storm was 2014. I was, we in Birmingham, we called it Snowmageddon. I don't know where else it hit, but it was big for us. And I
was
know
that the like Ski Birmingham phase? People were popping out T-shirts to like Ski Birmingham.
Maybe, yeah. That feels
that year?
That feels right. It's funny. It's not funny. These storms are serious, and people face real consequences. As an 8th grader in 2014, when I just got to like leave school and walk around my neighborhood in the snow and explore the woods, it was actually kind of a blast for me. Like
Absolutely.
I look back on that with such fond memories, and it's like, man, like it was still like a really bad event. So these snowstorms, I always am like kind of half in, half out. Like I'm like, well, I do, I love a good snow day, but the like real consequences of it really kind of outweigh all that.
For sure.
All right. So we've already said a little bit, but you are from Franklin, Tennessee.
Correct.
Tell me a little bit about Franklin. I know you love it there. What is your heart in Franklin?
It's a great question. I didn't grow up in Franklin. I grew up a little bit north of Nashville, more rural, Robertson County, Greenbrier, Springfield, Ridgetop, top of the ridge for people who kind of know this area. Grew up on that side of town. And then when my wife and I got married in 2001, her job was in Hendersonville and my job was in Franklin. And we lived in Hendersonville for the first couple of years we were married. And over those first couple of years, 2 things happened. I got just sick of my commute every day from Hendersonville to Franklin. It was, I would get to this spot on I-5 and I would see the brake lights and like the knots in my stomach. I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm not the most patient guy in the world. I'm working
Sure.
on it. God's working on me. That would drive me crazy. And then also, she developed this kind of intense hatred for her job.
Okay.
And we were like, okay, my job was going pretty well. And I was like, I think we could just cut both of these stressors out of our lives
Sure.
and let's make the move. Let's make the jump. Let's move south of town. And so she left her job and we moved to Franklin. And that was, gosh, 21, 22 years ago. And we just have not looked back. I mean, it's been a great experience. We love it here. It's still got kind of that small town feel.
Yeah.
Although it has changed a lot in the last 20 years. I mean, 2020, we had just just the great California migration of
It blew
2020.
up. Blew up.
It hit Franklin big time, and so there's some change going on.
Yeah.
But for the most part, the people who I meet who migrated here from out west, they have good hearts. They're here for a reason, and
Yeah.
they want to make this community better. And it's just been, man, it's awesome. I love the small town feel, but it's still got everything you need. People are friendly.
Yeah.
Local business, small business is a big part of this community. That's something that I'm passionate about. And so I don't know. It's I like to say, man, there's no place I'd rather be. I've never lived anywhere other than Middle Tennessee.
Yeah.
And I don't want to live anywhere other than Middle
Fair
Tennessee.
enough.
I love visiting. Birmingham was one of my favorite places in the world to go visit, to go eat, to see friends, hang out. Charleston, Lexington, Louisville. But I don't want to live anywhere other than right here in Middle Tennessee.
Hey,
It's got my
respect.
heart.
Respect.
Yeah.
I get it. All right. I have some Franklin questions, and one, I need you to forgive my ignorance here. Is there a big difference between Franklin and Nashville? I always grew
Oh
up,
my God.
if I knew somebody from Franklin, you'd be like, it's just Nashville. Am
Yeah,
I
I mean-
way off base there?
Dude, my wife and I were born in Baptist Hospital about 8 months apart, which is now, I think, called St. Thomas Midtown. Baptist Hospital is not around anymore. And growing up, like, I claimed Nashville as my home. I'm a Nashvilleian. I still do to some extent, but Nashville, I mean, you know this, it has exploded.
Big
It has
time.
become the bachelorette party center of the world.
Yes, it
You
has.
have these pedal taverns, and you have just honky tonks that are, by the biggest country stars in the world on every daggum corner.
Yeah.
Nashville, I am excited to see the growth of Nashville.
Yeah.
Obviously, you look around and there are things like Oracle and Amazon, they're moving in here, Mitsubishi and, In-N-Out's moving their their North American headquarters to Middle Tennessee, to Franklin. But Nashville has changed a lot. And like, candidly, dude, we just don't go to Nashville anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, now we're older than you. So, we're a little bit further down the river.
Sure.
But it's just not worth it to us anymore to fight the traffic and the people and the crowds.
I
And
get
it's
it,
gonna it is going to take something incredibly special to get me to go south of Brentwood,
Okay.
or
Okay.
north of Brentwood. We just don't go to Nashville anymore.
Yeah.
There's one restaurant a couple of restaurants that, like, I have dear friends who own some restaurants, operate some restaurants in Nashville, and we'll go once a year, just to like pay our tributes and, speak well of them and eat their food and
Give a
pay
generous
money.
tip. Yeah.
But other than that, some of our dearest friends in the entire world just moved from East Nashville here to Franklin. And so it's like, we're even trying to, man, let's get y'all a little bit south of town
Yeah.
where it's easier to connect, have date nights, go over, families hang out, that kind of stuff. Because I love Nashville, but I also hate it at the same time.
Sure,
Like, it's
sure.
just become too much for us to deal with, that we
Yeah.
would rather, let's just stay low stress on this side of town.
I get it. I get it. Look, my wife and I, she moved to Birmingham for the first time after college, but I grew up here. But now all we're trying to do is recruit people here because, we try and give this pitch like, hey, look, like, I know you love the hustle and bustle of Nashville, but if you want, the nice restaurants that you get in like a quote unquote bigger city, but you don't have as much traffic, like Birmingham's a nice little spot that you can meet in the middle. So that's our pitch
Listen,
right now.
if I were going to be, I still think I had an argument with my kids the other day because I called Franklin the greatest small town in America.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they were like, Dad, Franklin's not a town, it's a city. And I was like, no, I think we still have that small town feel, although the county's growing, like, I think we're 70, 80,000 people, something like that. So it's not a tiny place, a lot of
Hmm.
people here. But I think if I were choosing city life, I would probably choose Birmingham over Nashville.
Rock
I
on.
would.
Rock on.
Birmingham still has I think Birmingham is probably maybe 10, 15 years behind Nashville in
Yeah.
terms of the growth
Yep.
that I think you could still experience some really great years in Birmingham without it getting to this place where it's just like it's unmanageable at this point. Nashville's just it's too big for our liking
Sure.
anymore.
I get it. But I do want to ask, you mentioned people moving to Franklin too. A lot of people
Mhm.
from out west. Is there like, like you experience these people who move to your neck of the woods from a whole different part of the country? Is there almost this kind of like wave of like they have to learn a couple new things and you can kind of tell
Absolutely.
who's from where?
Absolutely. Dude, I listen, I'm not gonna say their names, but
Hey,
we
look,
live
if you want to.
no, we live out in the country. Candidly, I don't even know their names. I just know one of their kids' names.
Okay.
But we live out in the country, and one of the families that moved in 2020 moved kinda on the backside of our hill. So we can't see their home, but there's a fence row kind of at the top of a ridge that if you were to climb over that fence row, you
Yeah.
would be at their house.
Okay.
You'd
Okay.
be in their backyard. And when they moved in, one of their young kids came meandering over the fence one day. Like we are a welcoming family. We have 4 kids, at the time in 2020, gosh, they were much younger than they are today.
Yeah. Can you believe
And
that
so
was
when he
6
came
years
wandering
ago
over
at this point?
do what now?
It was 6 years ago at this point. Like,
Yeah,
isn't
it
that
was 2020, late 2020,
yeah,
probably
just
early 2021 where they moved in. And, this young boy started wandering over, and that was fine. Like, our boys would play and they'd hang out and stuff like that. But it got to the point where, I mean, it's several hundred yards between our house and his house, and you gotta climb over a little bit of ridge, climb over a fence, come down. And we've got dogs, we've got German shepherds, we've got a pond. We like to sort of pay attention to, man, if a young kid is
yeah,
down by the pond, we wanna be paying attention to that kinda thing.
absolutely.
And he would just kinda wander over and help himself to our place. Like, he would be down with a BB gun trying to shoot fish in our pond. And we homeschool, so my wife is working with the kids most days, at the kitchen table or around the house doing something. And so our kids are not completely free to just, like, drop everything going, like, we got some schoolwork to do.
Yeah, yeah.
And he would just show up at the door and be like, "Hey, can the boys play?" And my wife had to kinda write a note and send back with him like, "Hey, would you mind taking this to your mom?" And so they had a very nice phone call, but it was like my wife had to set a little bit of a boundary and just go, "Hey, we want your son to come over here and play and fish and hang out with the boys, climb trees and all that good stuff. But if you wouldn't mind, just text me in advance.
Yeah.
Just give me a shout. Give me some heads up so that I can make sure that the boys aren't doing any school. I can communicate with you. And also, it's a good little distance and there's some woods and, different things. We don't want a young boy who's probably 7 or 8 at the time. Like, we don't want him getting lost
Sure.
or like, we wanna know where he's at, and the mom did not take very well to that. She got very offended and was like, he'll never bother you again." And we were just going like, "Whoa, that is such a odd response." But I think that a lot of people who move maybe from neighborhoods out in California and come here and now they're in the country and there is this sense which I honestly I love and I appreciate this sense of like, oh man, we're out in the woods now. We're out in the country. We got some freedom. Like people here in Tennessee, they just wander around. They do things differently. And to some extent that's true. But it's like we just want to know that people are safe
Yeah.
and that, we're not having to turn away a young boy like, no, I'm sorry, nobody's available to play right now. You gotta go home.
Yeah.
And it was odd. So we've had most people we run into who moved here from out west have been great, but there have been a few little things I go, you just kinda have to learn how to navigate some of these differences between
Yeah.
where you came from and where you're at now.
Yeah. Yeah. You're in a different place. You kinda have to
In a
understand what
different
that's
place.
like. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not a neighborhood where you can just literally pop next door 20, 30 feet, knock on the
Yeah.
door, and super easy. It's like there's some dangers out here, in the trees and the sticks a little bit. And we just wanna make sure everybody's, paying attention and that it just for whatever reason didn't land well with her, and that was a little bit odd, but
All right, no, I got
It's
it.
alright.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to ask, you got pond on that's on your property.
Yes, sir.
Are y'all a
Yes,
big
sir.
fishing family? Is that something y'all enjoy doing out there?
I don't do it nearly as much as I used to. We moved out there 13 years ago, 14
Yeah.
years ago. And, when we first moved out there, dude, we were fishing all the time. And we stocked it with some bass and, it was a blast. My boys have all kind of grown up doing that. They do
Yeah.
love it. All 3 of them love to fish. It's just, as they've gotten older, our oldest boy's 18 now. He's moved out and kind of becoming his own independent man. Our other kid's 15. Our other son is 15. Our youngest is 9. They still love to fish, but it just as they're growing older, I think their interests are changing a little bit. They
Sure.
still do it, but not nearly as much as maybe my dad heart would like to be out there,
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm pretty jealous of if I had a little pond on my property. Obviously, probably as I moved on, I wouldn't be out there as much, but man, those first couple years where you've got that right there, that's
Yeah.
just awesome.
It's been a huge blessing. We really love it.
All right, so Chris, I want to talk a little bit because I appreciate the Franklin Nashville distinction, and thank you for allowing me to share my ignorance there. But I also want to talk a little bit about a lot of the brands that you've kind of built, and what I love about them, at least from my research and looking into them, is you have really kept the South at the heart of a lot of what you've done. And
I try.
so let's talk about Made South and what that is and what inspired you to start it. You just kind of take us down the Made South journey.
Yeah. So I spent 12 and a half years working for a guy named Dave Ramsey. A lot of people will know that name. Some people might know his
There we
name, but I
go.
worked for
Okay.
Dave for 12 and a half years and I loved it. It was an incredible experience for me and my family and still love Dave, still very close with him. I'm grateful for that relationship.
It's awesome.
But it was 20 man, I'm gonna lose track of this. 2011, my mom passed away very suddenly, very quickly, and it was pretty traumatic for our family to lose her just so quickly and kinda out of the blue. And when that happened, it sent me down a little bit of a rabbit trail where I started looking into, like, where does my family come from? I got really interested in that for a hot
Mhm.
minute. And I learned so I dug into, like, the what is it? Not archeology, but, what's the website where everybody goes?
Genealogy,
Genealogy,
ancestry.com.
there you go. I went through all those websites kinda digging around and learned that as far back as I could tell, I was a 5th generation Tennessean, which made my kids 6th generation. And so there was something in me that kind of sparked with that I was like, I had always loved the South. I'd always loved Tennessee and being from here and kind of our slower pace and the way we talk and all that good stuff, art, music, food. But something about learning that like, oh, my family's roots are deeper in this place than I thought they were. It just reignited in me like this love for this region, this place. And so at the same time, I'd been there for 10 years at that time. And so when mom passed, I'd been right at almost 10 years with Dave. And I don't know, going through all that, it sounds cliche. And it's cliche for a reason. But when you lose somebody like that, like you do take stock and you go, man, what am I doing with my life? What do I want to do with my life? How do I want to spend the next 10, 15, 20, 50 years of my life? What do I want to be doing? And you know, being there for a decade at that point, I was like, I could have done. I'm convinced to this day I had the best job in that building, and I'm grateful for the opportunity. But after a decade, it was like, man, I'm doing the same thing
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah.
I'm sitting in a cubicle. Not that there's nothing wrong with that. It's not evil. It's not immoral, and it's great for some people. But I had watched my dad kind of be a little bit of an entrepreneur. He had been
Mhm.
self-employed several times over my growing up. And even I could think back when Dave hired me in '01, I told him, at some point, I know I have this thing in me that I'm gonna want to go try and build something for myself. And so when mom passed, I really started looking in like, okay, do I want to do something else with the rest of my life? And it took us a little time to figure out what we wanted that thing to be, but we ultimately in late 2013 kind of had this idea of like, okay, maybe we could create something that would shine a light on these different Southern makers, artisans, these people who are making really amazing things in this region, and maybe we could make a business out of that. And that could be something that we could, our kids could grow up kind of seeing mom and dad work on this and build something. So we did decide it was February 14th, 2014 is my wife's birthday, and I walked into Dave's office and said, "Hey, I got this little side project. I launched it and it's actually going pretty well. And I'm gonna leave here and I'm gonna
Yeah.
go do this full time. And I appreciate the education that you've given me and the experience. And it was a great emotional conversation. But I left in February 2014 and to start Made South, which was at the time a subscription box business. We would send out boxes every quarter to our subscribers, and inside those boxes would be different things that we thought were really cool that were being made by Southern makers and artisans. And it started that way. And then it kind of evolved pretty quickly. We started doing events in 2015 that would bring these makers together once a year and kind of create a shopping experience around these people. And it just kind of went on from that. I mean, it's evolved several times over, to the point where today I think of Made South as like a family of small Southern brands that each of them has kind of Southern hospitality or Southern culture as a chassis.
Yeah.
But whatever product or service is built on top of that chassis could be pretty much anything, as long as we kind of keep those core principles, at the heart of whatever we're doing. But I mean, over the years, we've added a cocktail mixer brand. We launched a sticker brand. We have a business today where we make custom hats for different brands and businesses.
Yeah.
We own some tiny house Airbnbs kind of in Southeast Tennessee where we get to host people, and that's fun. And we put a lot of very specific Southern art that created by different makers inside those spaces. And, the books on the bookshelf that we want you to pick up and read while you're there relaxing are from some of our favorite authors.
Yeah.
All from the South. Like, we're very intentional about that. And so it's kind of grown and evolved to the point today where, I mean, we've got 7 different kind of things that we do that are all very focused on the South and Southern culture and Southern hospitality as that chassis,
Yeah.
but with different products or services built on top of those chassis.
Hey, Southern Fried listeners, hope you're enjoying this episode of the podcast with Chris Thomas. I want you guys to go show Chris some love on his Instagram. It's one word, Chris Thomas. Just look it up, give him a follow, and from there, he's got a link tree which will take you to Made South and all the other brands that he works on. It was a great conversation. We got to talk about some really cool stuff, and it's cool to have that conversation with somebody that loves Southern hospitality and is so passionate about it, just as I am. Hope y'all enjoyed this episode with Chris. Go show him some love on Instagram. And now, let's get back to the show. That's awesome. So I knew Made South as the kind of the market brand where all the makers come together. But like Good Southerner, Eli Mason, all those you kind of have housed under that Made South umbrella now at this point.
That's correct. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
that's awesome. All right, so here's something I find really interesting. So you have, even from the subscription box service, like you had these Southern makers, and now with the markets, you have Southern makers. Where do you find these people? Like, how do you track down, like, who is gonna, whose art are we showcasing or whose products are we showcasing?
Yeah. So in the early days, it was, when mom passed away in 2011 and I started digging into and learning where I came from, in 2013, I walked into the year and I said, okay, this year I'm not going to buy anything from Walmart or Amazon or I'm anything that I personally buy. And I'm not talking about groceries. I'm not talking about like, oh, we need toothpaste, for the family.
But your wants.
If I needed a wallet, I was like, okay, I'm not going to go to Walmart and pick out a wallet. I'm not going to go to, whatever store, whatever big box store. I'm going to try to find somebody who's making wallets. If I can find them in Franklin or Nashville, great. If I can't, I might expand it to Memphis, Knoxville, Chattanooga. If I can't find somebody in Tennessee, I'm going to find somebody in the Carolinas or Kentucky or, wherever,
That's
Mississippi,
awesome. Yeah.
Alabama. So I spent all of 2013 doing that. I bought a wallet. I bought a pair of boots. I bought some jeans from a place here in Nashville. I needed like not a backpack, but like a work satchel. I bought one from a guy who makes them here in Nashville. some stationery. I wanted that to I like writing handwritten notes. I bought some stationery from a company out in South Carolina. And I just through 2013, I got to meet a lot of these people. I mean, when you're buying things from a small business that you can actually get that person on the phone or you can email them and they're the ones that are responding,
Yeah.
you do build a little bit of a connection. Like those sales are more important to a small business. They pay more attention than some big box store buying something off Amazon. And so I met a lot of people during 2013. And so then on the tail end of 2013, as this idea for subscription box started to form in my mind, I was like, we can go to this candle company that we know. We can go to this stationery company that we know.
Yeah.
We can go to these people who are leather makers. Like I began to see it a little bit. So that's how I found them in the early days, was just kind of out of necessity. If I
That's really
needed
cool.
something, I went researching and tried to find who are the people in this part of our country who are making the actual thing that I need.
Yeah.
As it grew, I mean, that first event that we did in 2015, where we invited, I think we had 65 different makers and artisans under a big 20,000 square foot kind of circus tent in the middle of a field here in Franklin.
Yeah.
Those first 65, dude, it was me on the phone. Like, hey, you make some awesome coffee in Greenville, South Carolina. Would you be willing to come to Franklin for 2 days?
That's awesome.
Pop up a little retail space and sell your coffee and let people try it. That's how I found Eli Mason. I reached out to them. I saw the bottle in one of my bottle shops that I frequent. I tried it because my wife had kind of taught me about looking at ingredients. I was like, oh, there's no high fructose corn syrup in this. There's real ingredients. It was made in Nashville. It had a great brand. I was like, I'm a sucker for old fashions. I'm a sucker for anything made in Nashville. So I tried it. When I liked it, they got a website. I reached out to them, said, you're in Nashville. I'd love for you to come to this event, make samples of old fashions, let people try it, sell your bottles. Those first few events, it was me on the phone or on email, on the internet, digging around, trying to find people that I thought were doing really cool stuff and
Yeah.
inviting them to come to Franklin once a year and pop up and sell their stuff. And then as it kind of grew and people, I mean, that first event, we had no idea what we were doing. We never put on an event before, but we had a
Yeah.
couple thousand people show up and buy tickets and spend money. And we were like, this is unbelievable. And at the time we didn't see anybody else doing that kind of thing. And
Yeah.
so as it kind of grew, and I will say every event that we've done, the Made South Market event, man, we're very open in our marketing that the focus is on the makers, the small businesses.
Mm,
And when you come here, we want you to spend money with these people, and we don't get a cut of that. We want them to sell as much product as they humanly can because we know that is a huge impact on their small business. If they can
that's
show
awesome.
up and sell 2, 3, 5 grand, 10 grand in a day, that's a huge impact on that
Yeah.
small business. And so for whatever reason, we've been blessed by God. The people who do show up at this event, they come ready to spend money. They buy into the mission of the event and they're like, they care about the same stuff we care about. And they show up and they spend money, and it's evolved to a holiday market now
Yeah.
where we kick off the Christmas shopping season, and we're very clear. Our goal is that you don't go to Walmart and Amazon to do your Christmas shopping. Don't go to Target. Come to this event, look these makers in the eye, see their product, hold it, talk to them about
Yeah.
why they're even doing this, what their process is, and then buy these products and make this your Christmas shopping event. And the people show up and they buy. So over the years, as it has kind of grown and it's become, I think, pretty well known as like, this is an event that people buy at.
That's awesome.
We've not had to do a lot of reaching out. We kind of hold an application process once a year in the spring. We get several hundred applications. We're always really sad when we have to say, we don't have a space for you because we
Yeah.
have finite space and we just don't have enough space to put 300 amazing makers. So we've got to pare that down to about 80, and it's always a sad time, but the event has gained enough of a name that now we can kind of go, okay, we've got 300 applications. Let's just take a week and sift through these and click on websites and, look at Instagram feeds and like, okay, man, these people are making some really cool stuff. We can be a little more choosy about who's coming into the event, but it's always a very difficult thing to do to pare that down.
Well, I gotta tell you, the idea of through this Southern Fried, like I've talked to a lot of different people now. And one thing that I think really sticks out is at the end of the day, Southerners really care about community and they care about other Southerners and they care about like the people that are in their backyard. And I think one thing that's unique about kind of the South, and I don't know, I feel like maybe the Midwest has this a little bit. I kind of have some respect for them, but like I feel like New England and like the West, to me, like if somebody insults Tennessee, I take that as an attack. Like if somebody
Amen.
insults South Carolina, I'm like, that you're talking about Alabama, you're talking about Mississippi, you're talking about all of us. And so like when somebody says something bad, I think we all rally. It's the same of like when I go to an event like that, like Made South, and you see somebody from South Carolina or Tennessee or Georgia, like we are all together in that. And so the idea that all these people come together and want to say, we want to support you guys is this idea that we all have like as Southerners, which I think
Yeah.
is so cool to see y'all like have that mission in that way.
100% agree. And I would take a, I would challenge you a little bit on the Midwest thing. I do think it's funny. I just saw an Instagram video yesterday, like a British guy who's in Michigan right
I
now.
saw it.
And
Yeah.
my
I
cousin
think I've
sent
seen
it
the
to me.
same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, my cousin sent it to me. They live up in Michigan, and we have this. I love my cousins, and they're very kind people. And by the way, they grew up in the South. I mean, really, they grew up in Tennessee.
Yeah. Okay.
But there's a little bit of a friendly, like, hey, Michigan's. They'll throw these things out like Michigan's good too. We treat people well too. I can respect that part of it 100%. And I think hospitality and the way you treat people is not exclusive to the South. I don't claim that. That would be foolish for me to do. But I do think, you talk about the Midwest. I don't know that they have the same sense of like when you talk about South Carolina or Tennessee being from Alabama. I think if somebody's in Michigan and they see something being made in Ohio, they're probably like,
Yeah.
I ain't
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
buy that. I don't want that. There's something about those rivalries, and it's ingrained in sports. I mean, we all know that. Whereas I think here you might have a little bit of that. People in Tennessee might be like, I ain't buying nothing from Florida, man. I hate them Gators. But for the most part, I don't know that it runs as deep
Yeah.
that sense of like us versus you type thing. Ohio versus the world. I don't know that any individual southern state kind of has that mentality. I don't know if that makes sense at all.
Yeah, no, I track with you. I think I probably agree. You know, the video, I think I saw the same video, and I don't know if that guy's been in the South or not. You know, there's another British guy who's like toured Alabama. We love him
Yep.
down here. But the
Yeah,
one
I've seen that dude.
you're talking about, if I can go on a quick soapbox and I want to get your response on this. Somebody commented something like Midwest, like they're really hospitable, and the South is like bless your heart hospitality, and nothing bothers me more than when people talk about bless your heart hospitality as like a bad thing. Like, sure, we talk everywhere in the world, people talk behind people's backs at times, but and this is something I love. I really want to get into with you about how you view Southern hospitality. It's more than just like a surface level when I hold the door open for you, which we
Yeah.
still do, but it runs so much deeper than that. And that's what people fail to understand is that Southern hospitality isn't just like a quick action. You know, it's like I'm going to take you food cuz you just had a baby, but then I'm going to sit with you for a couple hours and make sure that you're okay. And then a week from now, I'm going to text you and ask if the food was all right and do you need that dish again and can I come over and talk with you? Like it's so much more than just one quick thing. Anyways, that really grinds my gears too when people talk
Yeah.
kind of get on Southern hospitality.
I 100% agree with you. But, the thing that I am leaning more into, and it's still every day, I feel like it just is evolving in my brain. But this video that we both, I know I saw it. You think you saw it
Yeah.
yesterday, the
We're talking about
gentleman
this
in,
video too. Like
Michigan.
it's really
But I
yeah.
mean, this guy even referenced Southern
Yeah, he
hospitality
does.
in the video. He was like, people in the Midwest up here in Michigan, and he's speaking with a British accent. I'm not going to try to do that because I would fail
No,
terribly. But he's like, these people are really nice. Everybody's so kind. I mean, it reminds me of Southern hospitality, and there is a reason why Southern hospitality is thought about almost mythically
yeah.
around the world.
Yeah.
I guarantee you can go to Seoul, Korea. You can go to Tokyo, Japan. You can find people in places all over the world who, and I'm not saying everybody, but that when you say Southern hospitality, they're like, "Oh, we've heard of that.
Hmm.
We've heard of that." There is a reason why books and movies and television shows have been the core principle, or the place, the setting, the vibe is Southern hospitality.
Yeah.
You will not find that with other cultures throughout the world. Now, I will absolutely say I may be ignorant on this. There may be a few other places around the world that are known for their hospitality. But I would argue, I don't know that there is a region or a place in the world that is more widely known for hospitality than the American South. And there is a reason for that. And that's what has me curious these days is trying to figure out what is it about this place and its people that makes that so. And the best part to me is like you don't have to, that dude's in Michigan walking around, but he's comparing it. He's like, this feels like Southern hospitality to me.
Yeah.
Because it is, and it can be. It does not matter where you live. It does not matter where you were born. It doesn't matter what type of accent you have. You can take the principles of Southern hospitality and make daily choices to
That's
engage
great.
them, to live in those, and to apply them to your relationships, whether it be small business, whether it be personal relationships. And you can live that out, whether or not you live in the American South, whether or not you were born here.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. And that to me is so interesting. And that's the thing that like has me the most curious these days is why, what is that? How did we get here? And even more than that, how do we not lose it? Because
Sure.
I do think, dude, you can walk around the daggum mall, which I try to avoid the mall with everything in me, or you can be online. We're losing that every single day because it just boils down to and you know, I am a Christian. That's my worldview. That's my foundation. It does boil down to how Christ taught us to treat people. And the way those things come out in the middle of Southern culture, I think, we've kind of packaged or marketed as Southern hospitality. But I'm just so curious about that these days because we're losing it 100%.
Wow. Really good. I think you're right. I think you're nailing on the head. But I you're talking about wanting to kind of really find out like where it comes from too, and like and get into that. So you call yourself on Instagram the Southern Hospitality
Evangelist.
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 I almost yeah. I don't know why. I work in ministry. For some reason, that word was hard for me to say. But a Southern Hospitality Evangelist. What all you probably just hit on it, but how do you like encompass that in what you do?
Yeah. So I have this is something I've been thinking about for probably the last 2 years, really heavily. I've been thinking about it. I've been reading about it. I've been making notes, and I've been trying to figure out, like, okay, what are those core principles or tenets? I still really like the word tenets. I don't know why.
Good
I'm
word.
just kind of drawn to that word. But what are those tenets of Southern hospitality? And as best I can tell, and some of these are a little bit redundant, but I've been trying to figure this out. Like I think graciousness
Mhm.
is and graciousness is kind of a two-pronged thing for me. It's kindness and it's also politeness. Kindness and politeness I think are two different things, but if you combine those, I think you get graciousness.
I like that.
I think it's generosity. I think there's something about charm in the American South, and people get a little bit weirded out when I talk about charm every now and then. But this is not a mystical thing. Charm, I think, is something that makes you individually you.
It's good.
It makes Charlie different from Chris. It makes Chris different from, and we all have it. And it's a weird thing. Charm is one of these things that, like, you can't quite put your finger on it, but you know it when you see it. You know it when you experience it. You know when somebody says a particular thing or looks at you a particular way or approaches you a particular way. You're like, we've all said that person's really charming. There's
Yeah.
something about charm that you have to find what kind of makes you uniquely you and then really lean into that. It's generosity, it's being intentional, it's being sincere. That's kind of the final thing. I put it at the end because none of this crap matters if you're not sincere about it. If you're
Yeah.
faking it, people are going to smell that and they're going to pick up on it and they're going to be put off by you or your business if they smell fakeness, if they smell insincerity. I'm not even sure if insincerity is a word. I just made that up. but you got to be sincere about this stuff. It is kind of these 7 different principles or tenets that I think are all a little bit different, and you can apply those not only to your life, your marriage, your relationships, but also to how you operate a small business. And most of the time, I think we think about these things in the context of business as like, oh, a customer experience, customer service. And I think that's true. And it's probably the easiest, maybe the most wise way to
Sure.
start operating in these ways. But you can also go to, man, how do I communicate with my teams?
Yeah. Yeah.
How do I communicate with the people that work with me every day, whether it's an actual W-2 employee or whether it's a contract person that I use for graphic design.
Yeah.
Do I pay bills on time? How do I communicate with them when something goes wrong? I mean, we've done these events now for 10, 11 years. And dude, inevitably, every single time we do an event, something goes wrong, whether it's a gobo that gets, out of focus or a light that doesn't get hung correctly or a power cord that doesn't get run the right way. How do you respond to those people, those light guys, those, the people who are setting this stuff up for you? They don't work for you, but you have hired them to do some work. How do you respond to them when something goes wrong?
For sure.
And, your teams that you're working with, your vendors that you're working with, to me, it goes deeper than just the customer experience. And you can apply these things throughout all facets of when you're thinking about designing a product and you're thinking about labeling and ingredients or where we're going to make this thing, how we're going to make this thing, the materials we're going to use, you can filter all of those questions through these tenets of Southern hospitality. And you will, I am convinced of it, come out with a better product that people are going to they're going to gravitate towards it more because you're going to have your charm on that bottle or on that product. It's going to be fun and playful and whimsical. It's going to solve a problem. It's going to perform well because your ingredients are solid. It's going to be a well-made thing. Like you can filter all of that through every facet of a small business. And I
Yeah.
think you end up better than where you started because of how you're thinking about this stuff.
You also talked about a second ago about how the core of Southern hospitality and brings true in American South is for a lot of people is kind of the Christian influence that is on the American South. And I think often because you're talking about Southern hospitality in your small business and in your place of work, there's this remember who it was or where I saw it, but there's this pastor talking about how you act at work as a Christian too. When you show up on time, when you are nice to your coworkers, when you treat people with respect, from a Christian standpoint, that's a way that you're showing people who you are and that you follow Jesus. And we take that another step. How you do all those things also says, look, I really practice Southern hospitality. And so I think it's cool that you talk about those tenets because not only are they Southern, but those are things that as a lot of
They're
people in
rooted in
this
the
South
gospel.
are, so many of
They
us in
are
this,
rooted in the gospel. And for
that's
you
where
and
we
I,
are.
as people who, claim to be followers of Jesus, it is, you don't have to be a Christian to do these things. And I'm convinced that if you choose to do these things and if you do them with sincerity, they will improve your relationship. They'll improve your business, regardless of what you believe in terms of a spiritual, direction. But as people who do claim that as our worldview and our foundation, I think it's a mandate for us to live this way. We
Absolutely.
are called to treat people in a specific way that by design, we want to be, not whimsical. We want to be I am blanking on the word. We want to be attractive
Yeah, we want to
to
pull
other
people
people.
in. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. And I have
And it's
friends
not a
who
superficial thing. It's not a
no,
superficial
no, 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 no,
attraction.
no.
It's like it's a magnet that you pull people towards you.
Yes, but you cannot fake it, regardless of what your worldview is. If you fake it, people are going to smell it and they're going to be repelled by you. People do not like fake. So you have to mean it. You have to really believe this stuff and lean into it and treat people in a very specific way that causes you to be attractive to other people. And I'm just convinced in my heart that, like, if we do these things, yes, our small businesses will benefit. And at the end of the day, if a small business is more successful, that family is going to be more successful. Human
Yeah.
beings are going to be affected by that. But in our personal lives, we can operate. I think about Southern hospitality as more of like an operating system for life. And yes, we can apply that to small business. I think that's a great thing to do. But as an operating system for life, it's about our relationships. It's about how we treat other human beings. It's about how we, in our house, we say, what comes out of you when you get bumped? You think about yourself as like a full glass of water. You
Mhm.
get bumped, that stuff's going to spill out. What are you putting inside? What's going to come out of you when you get bumped,
I like that.
when you're in those stressed moments? But it's an operating system for life.
That's so good. So I wanted we are been chatting for a while, so I don't want to take up all your whole morning. But I love the Southern hospitality, and I just it's so when you talk about that sincerity, that's something I think so important that people have to realize is that like true Southern hospitality comes from that pure, sincere place.
It
Which
has to.
yeah,
It
which
has to.
I love. I love. All right, I want to talk about one more thing. And that's the Southern Gentleman podcast. It's
Okay.
I would just want to talk about just for a second, what inspired you to start the Southern Gentleman show?
So this is my third podcast, my fourth
Okay,
podcast
okay.
that I've done. I started a podcast in like 2017, 18. I don't remember it was just called Made South. And I would just reached out to people who, just like you, I just thought these are interesting people who call this place home. And they're making, it could have been chefs, authors, musicians, just anybody that I felt like was making something in this region that I thought was interesting. And I was fortunate enough to have some really great guests on that podcast. My wife and I were staying at a place in East Tennessee. It was probably January, February of 2018, whatever year. I was like, okay, I want to do a podcast this year. And we were writing down in the room we stayed in Post-it notes. And I was like, okay, I want to do a podcast. I stuck it to the wall and I started making a list of like guests that I wanted. And I wrote down the name Alton Brown. I don't know if you're familiar with
Yep,
Alton
I
Brown.
know Alton Brown,
Lives
yeah.
in Atlanta. And I wrote down Alton Brown's name and I was like, golly, it would just be unbelievable, if I could get Alton Brown on the podcast. And dude, I'm not kidding you. That day, sitting in a really nice place that, we go to get away from in East Tennessee, I picked up my phone and on Instagram, Alton Brown had followed me. And I
I
was
felt
like,
that.
I was looking around like, what? I said, honey, you're not going to believe this. And so I just decided right then, I was like, I'm going to shoot my shot. So I sent him a DM. I was like, hey, I don't want to be too forward.
Yeah.
I literally today wrote down, I stuck a Post-it note, I sent him a picture of it. I was like, I wrote your name on a Post-it note. And I want you to be a guest on my podcast. I'm not anybody. I don't have any listeners. I don't have any of that. And he responded back. He was like, hey, I'm in LA filming a show. If you'd be willing to come to LA, I'll do it.
Wow.
And I was like, done. So, I mean, we set it up. I booked a flight. I've been so shocked at people who have said yes to
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
So I love telling people like, just ask. Ask with kindness, ask with grace, ask with humility. And I think you will just be shocked at who says yes. Ask keeping them in mind and their time, and you want to be respectful of all that. Ask. You will be so shocked at who says yes. But so I did a podcast for a little while called Made South. Then I kind of changed the name of it to Southerner. It was Southerner for a little while and carried it on for a little bit. I was on a podcast called Potluck with a buddy of mine, Will Haynes. We did a podcast for probably 2 years, 3 years, and then we just got busy and like life and
Yeah.
kids, and so we shut down Potluck. But I had a dream. Let's see, late 24. It's probably September of 24,
Okay.
and I had a dream that my friend Winston Cruz and I were in a building, and we were walking down a hallway together, and we were going to this really nice glass wall studio, and we were going to do a podcast together. And I didn't know what it was about. I didn't know any of that. It was just like I had this very vivid dream, and I woke up and I texted and I was like, "Dude, I had a dream last night. We were doing a podcast together." And he said, "Well, let's grab lunch. Like, let's talk about that." And so we had lunch. I was like, "This is really dumb." Winston's never done anything like this before.
Okay.
He's married to a lady who does have a lot of experience being on the radio and on podcasts, and she's got a lot of social media followers, but he like is I'm gonna stay in the background. He doesn't normally gravitate towards that kind of stuff. And but we had lunch. It was like, well, what would we even talk about? And so we just kind of landed on this idea of let's just be us and we can talk about whatever the crap we want to talk about. It could be cocktails, it could be games that we play with our families, it could be where we, want to take our wives for getaways, it could
Yeah.
be how to be prepared, during the great winter storm fern of 2026, what we learned kind of going through that. We could have guests on that, talk to us about how to be better husbands, how to be better dads, how to be better business people. We could just have fun guests who come on. These people, we were fortunate enough to have Derek Stroop on. I know you're probably familiar with Derek's work. Just a very funny stand-up comedian who has an incredible story of redemption.
It's
Just
awesome.
an incredible story. And, reached out to Derek and he was like, yeah, let's do it. I'm in Nashville from time to time. He popped over. And just to hear his story, it was incredible. And so it's just something, he and I say, we just spend an hour each week goofing off. I mean, we
Yeah.
likely the day before, we normally try to record on Tuesdays. Normally we are figuring out what we're going to talk about on Monday. Monday morning, it's like, well, what are we going to talk about?
Yeah.
Well, what's kind of top of mind? Christmas is coming up. Well, let's do a little gift guide. What do men want to have under the tree for them at Christmas? Valentine's Day is coming up. We'll do a little Valentine's Day gift guide for your wife.
Sure.
It's goofy and fun, and it's still very small. We're probably 1,300-ish subscribers across the different platforms. So very, very small, but like it's fun. And it's just a little bit of a creative outlet for us each week just to sit down, shoot the bull, talk about whatever we want to talk about. And it's silly.
Love it.
Silly.
Love it. Hey, everybody at this point in life, everybody needs a podcast, right? I mean, here I am just talking to you. So
Dude, everybody's got podcasts. Everybody. If you ain't got a podcast, you ain't living.
you're not doing it right. Yeah, and sorry for. I guess my idea for a podcast wasn't original at all, and I'm just ripping off mates out.
Mine wasn't either. I guarantee you something that you probably go find, 100 different podcasts about something to do with the American South
I'm
out
sure.
there.
I'm sure.
But they're all going to have different takes, different spins, different voices. Yeah, I think it's a playground, man.
Absolutely. Well, hey, Chris, I can't thank you enough for joining me. I've loved to hear your passion. And we talk about sincerity so much, but like you can really see how sincere you are about what you say and what you are chasing after and highlighting the South and talking about Southern hospitality. Like it is there. It is evident. So thank you for joining. I have one more question before we wrap up. I love to
Yeah, man.
ask my guests as we finish. And this is actually great for you because you literally have done this before. But if you were hosting Southern Fried, or we could just say maybe you rebooted Made South, and you had to get a guest for your show, who's somebody that you think would make a great Southern Fried guest? And maybe at this point, you could just say Alton Brown if you really wanted to.
Man. Yeah. Part of me wants to pull from the different guests that we have had on. I'll tell you, man, you need to have Alan Benton. Do you know who I'm talking about?
I'm not familiar with Alan.
Okay, this is the first moment that I'm disappointed in you, Charlie.
It happens. Hey, everybody's ever known me. It's happened at some point in their life. So I'm
You
glad we
need to
got
go
ours out the way.
find. You need to go look up Benton's Bacon.
Okay.
Alan Benton is an older gentleman, lives in East Tennessee, and he makes the most delicious bacon and cured hams that you will ever taste.
Okay.
And Mr. Benton is a dadgum legend. He's an absolute legend in Southern culture and specifically food culture. But I'm telling you, one of the most hospitable gentlemen I've ever met in my entire life.
Love
and
it.
we talked about charm. He is so charming and he is so sincere. He is the definition of a Southern gentleman.
Okay.
And I'll give you two quick stories. The first time I had been a fan of Mr. Benton's for a while, but I met him at a place called Blackberry Farm in East Tennessee.
Heard of it.
Probably 26, maybe 10 years ago. And my wife and I were there. We came walking out of we woke up one morning and Blackberry Farm, I can't tell you enough. Incredible, incredible place. And just the care and the attention to detail and the way they love people. It's amazing. But overnight, the heat in our cottage had gone out.
Mm-hmm.
And it was cold. It was probably January, February. And we woke up cold. I mean, it was maybe mid-50s in our room. And we were like, oh, so we called, hey, our heat's gone out. Oh, we'll get somebody right down. So we got dressed, took a quick shower, walked up to have breakfast. And as we're walking out of our cottage, I look over and Alan Benton and his wife were walking out of their cottage. So they were staying right next to us. I had no idea. And I see him and I was like, that's Alan Benton. And I walked over to him. We were both walking our wives up this hill to go breakfast. I said, Mr. Benton, I'm sorry. I don't want to bother you. I just got to tell you, my name's Chris. I'm a big fan. Love what you do. He was just so kind and gracious. And so as we're walking, we said, actually our heat, we woke up and it was really cold. Our heat went out. He and his wife immediately didn't even think about it. Hey, if you guys need to come over to our cottage and hang out by the fire, just come knock on the door.
That's awesome.
And I was like, who does that? Like,
Yeah.
I'm staying somewhere nice with my wife, getting away.
Try and get
I'm
away.
going to invite these rando strangers over to do that. I could not believe it. He ended up giving me his number. And when I started the podcast, I texted him and he was like, absolutely. If you'll come, to East Tennessee, because I prefer, I think virtual is great, but I like being
in
face-to-face.
person. So much better. Yeah.
So I packed the mic up, the recorders, the headphones, all that stuff. I drove to East Tennessee and, we sat in his tiny office in this cinder block building. He gave me an hour of his time, and the stories he told and the charisma, the charm with which he told them. I've never experienced anything personally like being around him for an hour or two.
Yeah.
And after that, walked me around the smokehouses, sent me home just with armloads of bacon and ham. And I was just like, what? You got to have Alan Benton on.
Okay.
And his son, Daryl, has kind of taken over the business.
Okay.
He's got a great story as well. I've not met him personally, but we've talked over the phone a few times. Seems like a really nice guy. Passionately wants to keep the legacy of Benton's Country Hams and Benton's Bacon going, and has stepped into the family business and is doing it with the same grace that his dad did. And but his dad's still around, and man, if you can get Alan Benton, you're going to get an absolute rock star.
Love it
on this podcast. He's incredible.
Great pull. Anybody who can, will show that Southern hospitality and that charm right off the bat. I love it.
He's a one of one. He's a one of a kind.
Well, Chris, I can't, again, thank you enough for joining me and getting to talk a little bit. And just telling us about who you are and how much you love Southern hospitality and all the stuff that you have gotten into and made South. And I've really enjoyed getting to talk with you.
Man, I've loved it. I appreciate the opportunity, and I've loved the conversation as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, man.
Well, that concludes this episode of Southern Fried. I hope you guys enjoyed getting to hear from Chris. He was a great guest to have on. Talk about somebody who just loves Southern hospitality and the way that it bleeds into everything that he does. I think that's a lesson that we can all take and learn from this episode. If you guys are enjoying Southern Fried, please go give us a follow on Instagram. Tell your friends about it. This podcast, following on social media is great, and listening to episodes is such a huge benefit. But to help it grow, word of mouth is the best way to tell people about it. So continue to spread the news that this is a podcast, that it's fun, that we talk to people from the South. If you know somebody that just loves the South, this is the place for them as we continue to explore this great region through its people. Stay tuned for the next episode, and y'all, come on back.